All right, so this first presentation is titled How to Prepare Your Career for Life After the Virus. So a lot has happened the last few months. So we're going to recap the hit that our industry has taken, what I see the future looking like, and what moves we can make now to prepare for life after the pandemic. So introduction, my name is Jason Estevan. I'm an independent MuleSoft consultant. I work under my own corporation called ST Solutions. If you're not from, I know we're virtual, we might get some people from outside the Toronto area. So I have done meetup talks at other meetup groups, but Toronto is my home base. I live just one city west. It's called Mississauga. So let's go into, so what happened? So I've broken down the industry into three different players, or to three parts here. So I have the MuleSoft customers on the top, and then underneath I have supporting the customers, the MuleSoft staffing, and MuleSoft services. So the customers I label as the people who actually hold the MuleSoft license. The staffing, I kind of they specialize in placing individuals on the existing MuleSoft customer teams, and mostly the people in staffing organizations are contractors. And this last bucket here, MuleSoft services, I kind of categorize as these are the organizations that are, they handle projects internally for the MuleSoft customers. So a lot of these organizations are like the MuleSoft Partner Program members, and most of the people working in these companies are on payroll. So they're full-time employees, but their organization bills the MuleSoft customers separately. So of course, this isn't a clear division. There's a lot of carryover, but this is just for kind of visualization purposes. So what happened? So in many industries, the government just plain shut us down. So airlines banned international travel to some countries. Then they restricted all non-essential travel to everywhere. Restaurants closed down, casinos, gaming shut down, and these were all industries that MuleSoft had a big presence in. And then what happened was that the suppliers to those businesses, something like alcohol, were affected well. And I know MuleSoft is a really big, has a lot of customers in that industry as well. So the reaction from the affected businesses and from the government was really quick. So we saw businesses cut all non-essential work and projects. The government in both the US and Canada implemented subsidy programs to partially pay for employees' wages. So in the US, this was called the Paycheck Protection Program, and in Canada, this was called the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy. However, these were only for full-time workers. So this encouraged businesses to keep the essential MuleSoft work that they needed done going with their full-time employees and sever all their contractors and third-party services. And the result of that is what we've seen is that the hardest hit areas from this shutdown have been, and the contraction afterwards, has been from the MuleSoft staffing and MuleSoft services organizations. So these organizations did not keep the people without an end customer to build. So even if they were full-time and had access to the government subsidies, we saw that it still wasn't worth them to keep on staff when there was no cash coming in. So the most effective. So this I've kind of laid out here kind of the major positions in a development team. So you have your architects and team leads, which there are fewer of. Then you have your senior developers, which there's a little bit more. And then in the bottom, you have the level 2 and level 1 junior developers, and there's more of them. So I noticed that even as organizations slimmed down, there was a trend that the people in these lower levels, these level 1s and 2s, were the most impacted. So I saw businesses choose to keep their more senior people who have a bigger impact on the business, even though they may cost a little bit more in salary. So even during the worst times, the majority of the very few jobs I did see openings were for these higher positions as well. So just kind of surveying some of the job postings I saw, for MuleSoft in the month of May. So you had a principal engineer, an architect, a lead engineer, team engineer. So almost all the positions I did find were for these higher level positions. So this showed that even in the worst of times, when everyone was cutting and trying to save money, there was still the belief that senior level people are still worth hiring. And a small note I do want to point out is I did find one lower level position was for the software engineer level 1. But you'll see here that this is a LinkedIn job posting, and you'll see here that after 17 hours, there were over 200 applicants, and this was just through LinkedIn jobs. So if you compare this to this MuleSoft architect, which in 3 days, it hadn't even reached 25. So not only were there less job openings for lower level developers, but there was much higher competition for them. And this ratio between the two is why I kind of worry that we might not see the number of lower level positions come back to what it was before, at least not for some time. So that's kind of the situation that I saw. So what can we do about it? So if you have been affected by this downturn, my heart goes out to you. Like try to stay optimistic. Things, of course, will get better in the long run. So you got to keep your head up, keep trying, and your hard work does pay off. And you're actually the reason why I felt I needed to give this presentation. But unfortunately, there's no quick fix. It may take some time to get back on your feet. But there are things that we can do to prepare ourselves for the future, because bad things happen all the time. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. Could be a customer that loses a big client, or reports bad sales and has to make cuts, or market trends shift and new competitors pop up. So there will always be changes in our careers. So I want to try to prepare you for when the unexpected happens so you can navigate through the tough times. So what I recommend. So going forward, I recommend climbing these two ladders. What I call a skills and a customer ladder. So from our last slide, we saw that the higher level positions are still in demand even through the tough times. So upping your software career level will help us keep our job when times go bad and aid us in finding another job if we need to switch. And this also gets us out of the large competition for the lower level jobs that we saw on those job postings in the last slide. The skills ladder mostly means our technical skills, but it's other soft skills as well, like your leadership and communication. They're also important. And one thing I've recommended in the past, and I've done a whole video on it on my YouTube channel, is to be a software specialist, not a generalist. So being a software specialist directly helps in climbing this skills ladder. So if you lose your job as a MuleSoft developer and you end up taking a job as a Salesforce developer, your skills will take a step down this ladder, as you don't have the experience in Salesforce coding as you did in MuleSoft. So it's true that maybe if you leave MuleSoft for another integration platform, like a TIBCO, Boomi, or SnapLogic, you will have some carryover, but it's still at least one step down. So please note that if you do leave MuleSoft, and I understand that, yeah, you got to pay the bills and you got to put food on the table. It's a real thing. Just note that if you do switch, you'll have to work harder and longer to get back up to the higher level, which we deem safer. So if you are a person that switches technologies often, I'd say my recommendation is to take a step back and reflect to see if it's been working for you, or if you've been trapped at the same software level for a long period of time. The second ladder that I recommend climbing is what we saw on the what happened slide. So the most affected industries have been the ones furthest away from the customer. So you can think of this as being closer to the source of the money. So the organizations that have the MuleSoft license, and we saw this in the first slide, the ones at the triangle on the top, these are the ones that need the MuleSoft help. So everyone between you and that source is an added burden that limits your option and puts you at greater risk during a downturn. So if you are in direct communication with the MuleSoft customer, you're in a better position to negotiate the terms and rates of your agreement. So I'm going to present a tip to help climbing each one of these ladders. So the first one is a tip to try to get a higher level position in software engineering. So job titles. So your job title, how superficial it may seem, is actually very important. It is the first thing that gets read when someone is reviewing your resume. It is better than a coworker or manager review because it is not an opinion. It is what type of work another company was willing to pay you for. So in marketing, there's a saying about how the data from customer surveys and polls shouldn't be taken too seriously because it's opinions. So the sales data, when the customer actually has to make a commitment and spend money and make a purchase, much better shows what people would do than if you just ask them. So that is why your old manager saying that you would make a good architect isn't nearly as good as your old company paying you to be an architect. And the easiest way to get a job title, I believe, is to switch jobs, or what's called job hopping. So smaller companies are typically more flexible in giving you the title you want. It could be because they know you'll be doing multiple jobs anyways, or because it doesn't mean much to them in terms of liability. But larger companies that I have specified in these columns back here, they tend to have their titles more formalized. So your title lines up with your agreed upon job responsibilities as well as your salary range. Also at large organizations, there'll be more people with your exact title. So if your salary or day-to-day activities don't line up with others with the same title, there could be internal conflict. So what I suggest doing is, say if you're at a big company and you're a level 1 developer, I recommend that instead of trying to get a promotion within your big company, that you look for a higher level position at smaller companies. And then once you get that position, then start looking for an equal position at the big company. And then once you get to, like, say, a level 2 developer, it is easier to get the senior level position at a small company. But then you can transfer back to a big company at that senior developer. So you're making the transition from level 1 to senior, but you're making a hop through small companies. And actually, you don't actually have to switch back to a different big company. It's actually quite prevalent that people would leave for 6 to 12 months and then come back to the same big company they were at, just at a higher position. So this actually happens so much, there's a name for it. It's called boomerang employees. So the reason why the reason why you want to transfer from a senior developer at a small company to a big company is because HR people value your title at bigger companies if you're coming from a bigger company than at a smaller company. So the end goal of all of this is to try to become the highest position at a large company. And an example outside of the MuleSoft world, but is current, is that if you have on your resume that you were a staff software engineer at one of the big Silicon Valley IT companies, like a Facebook or a Google, it's almost a little joke how some people introduce themselves. They're always the ex-Google, ex-Facebook tech lead. But in reality, they really will have no problems getting past HR screening processes for any other IT organization for the rest of their lives because of this title that they come from a big company. So I know this might be scared a lot of you for me recommending switching jobs so much. It's kind of the opposite of what you were told growing up. Unfortunately, nowadays, it's the truth that it's much easier to get a higher level position in a large company by leaving and then trying to get promoted where you are. And I can explain more with some anecdotal evidence if people want, but I'm going to tell you now another tip on how to get more stable employment. So this is to climb the second ladder which is to get closer to the MuleSoft customer. So recruiters are really prevalent in the IT space. It's probably because we tend not to be the most outgoing people. We're not very good at networking with CTOs and CIOs at conferences and events, and we're even worse at advertising how good we are. Thinking about it, I couldn't even really name any of the world's best software engineers. The only person I could really think of is Linus Torvalds, who is the leader of the Linux kernel, the lead creator of the Linux kernel. But I don't even know if he codes anymore. But we all know the business side members of these major IT companies where these developers work. So we all know Elon Musk's SpaceX just launched people into space, but I have no idea who wrote the code that landed the reusable rocket on that floating barge. So anyways, it's much easier to find a job using a recruiter. They practically come to us with job opportunities, either through our LinkedIn feeds or sometimes they just call me on my phone, and I'm not even sure how they got my number. So they're offering us jobs instead of having to go out and look for them ourselves. However, for this convenience, we are paying much more than just a percentage of what they make off our wages. We are paying with career stability. So every contract you sign with a recruiter that brings you into organization will have a non-compete clause. You will not be able to work for that client without that recruiter. So even if you work really hard, put in extra hours, go above and beyond your role, you will still be limited with your future opportunities with that company. In our business, it's tough to build great relationships and reputations as very few people actually see our work. So if you do a great job and look for a raise or a promotion, you will have to get the recruiter to represent you, and then they'll have to get a raise too. Plus, you'll always be under market rate. The company is only willing to pay so much for a role, including the recruiter's rate. So asking for a raise is even more difficult, as the company is most likely paying to close to market rate for you anyways. The amount you can grow salary-wise will always be severely limited with a recruiter present. So I'm going to walk through a couple scenarios on how we can find a job without a recruiter. So a few weeks ago, I pulled this job posting. Let me just pull it up here. I pulled this job posting from LinkedIn Jobs. Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit here. So this is for a MuleSoft developer in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. So I chose something in the States for two reasons. First of all, I didn't want no one on this call to work here or work at this recruiting company. And second, too, I do believe that we're going to be more remote after this pandemic. So even though some people in the States, some companies were a little hesitant to hire people in Canada, I think that's going to change. So I do recommend people not to be afraid to applying for jobs in the US. So this one is Eden Prairie from Minnesota, and it's a company I didn't recognize. It's like Surigor Inc. So I did a Google search on Surigor, and they say that they provide IT services. So basically, they're an IT recruiter. So our goal is to try to find out what company is hiring in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, so that we can directly apply to them ourselves without a recruiter bringing us to them. So for example, what I would do if I saw this is the first thing I'd do is go into my LinkedIn. Alexander, thanks for the post. And what I'll do is I start searching for people. I start searching for people that are in the location Eden Prairie, Minnesota. So what I've done, and something you probably want to do beforehand. So my network, it only helps if you have a big network. So it is important to try to grow your network on LinkedIn. So I have about 1,500 connections, and most of these, almost if not all, are related to the MuleSoft industry. So they're all MuleSoft developers, consultants. And what I've done is to get these amount of people is that LinkedIn offers a 30-day premium subscription for free. So what I did is I signed up for the premium for 30 days, and then I just searched the title for the topic MuleSoft, and anybody who had a MuleSoft in their title or had a certification that showed up, I added them all. And then as they added me, I went through their connections and added anyone that looked like they were a MuleSoft developer. So I have about 1,500 MuleSoft people across the world practically. So and this helps when I want to search for locations. So if I want to go, I go to all filters and you can search by location. So if I go, I'm looking for people that live in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. So nothing pops up. There should be a drop-down list here. So nothing really pops up. So this probably tells me, so LinkedIn has these boundaries. So you can't just choose any city. You have to choose a specific city. So let me just search where Eden Prairie is. So Eden Prairie, let's see how big it is. So it's a small town. So it's 60,000 people. And it looks to be, that's probably driving distance away from Minneapolis. So what I could do is try to find a region in the area. So if I just type in Minnesota, it gives me 3 regions, St. Cloud, Duluth, and Rochester. I have no idea where these things are. St. Cloud's up here. I don't see a Rochester, or the other one was Duluth, I think, or something. So anyways, you can select more than one, so we'll just add all of them. Not Minnesota, Duluth, and the last one was the Rochester, Minnesota. And because this seems close to Minneapolis, I'm thinking people could probably live in the city and drive out to their location. So let's see if we can go Minneapolis. Okay, it gives us an area. So then I do my first connections and I go apply. So what do I see here? So I have 18 results. That's a good thing. So now I got to find out where these people work. Do any of them work at a company that's in Eden Prairie? So I can see, okay, this one's St. Paul, St. Paul, St. Paul, St. Paul. This person actually, this is perfect. So this person is actually in Eden Prairie. So let's see where this person works. It says Optimum. So Optimum. So Greater Minneapolis area. So now what I want to see if this is the company that's in Eden Prairie. So I'm not too sure. I've never heard of Optimum. It looks like they're healthcare, and I know MuleSoft's really big in healthcare. And they got 18,000 employees. So MuleSoft, because it's pricey, it's only going to be in larger organizations. So what I also could do is just go into Google and go Eden Prairie, Minnesota jobs. And then if I go to jobs and go to more jobs, then I'm starting to look for companies that would be big enough in Eden Prairie that would have MuleSoft. And because it's kind of like a desk job, so I'm really looking for maybe like a headquarters or like an office setting. So I don't know what this one's, sales and marketing company. I think this is a recruiter. Amazon, but it's a warehouse, so it's not an office job. Technosoft, I'm not sure what this is. City of Eden Prairie, I don't think the town of 60,000 people will have a big enough industry. So this one, United Health. So what I could do is check out United Health. And now I want to see, United Healthcare is really big with MuleSoft. So let me see if, now I got to figure out, does anybody on my connection work at United Health? So I can figure out if they have MuleSoft at United Health. So let me clear these. Go to my filters again, and I go to, say, past companies, because most likely more people have left and been there. So I can go United Health Group right here, search my connections, and go apply. Oh, I got to clear the India. I don't know how that got in there. Yeah, and I have 14. So that's a good sign. So let me go up to one here. Now let me see if they worked at United Health as a MuleSoft developer, because they could be like a Java developer or something. So I scroll down. In 2017, they worked as a MuleSoft developer. So now I know that United Health Group headquarters is in Eden Prairie, and they have MuleSoft. So what I could do, I can do two different actions. I could go to their website. So I could go to like United Health Group. And each one of these large companies will have like a careers page. So I can just go to the career page and search MuleSoft and see if I can find a match to the job posting. Because a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll send it out to all the recruiters as well, but they'll always post it on their own website. So they don't have one. It could have been here. This has been a few weeks now since I saw this job posting. So it could have been here, but then I guess they filled it or pulled it away. But what I could do also is I could go back into my LinkedIn and see if I know anybody who's currently working my first connections at United Health Group. So I go to United Health Group, and perfect. This Rakesh person actually seems to be working right there, right now, in Eden Prairie. I don't know why I didn't come up on my search. At United Health Group. So what I could do is message them and say, hi Rakesh, my name's Jason. I'm looking for a MuleSoft position. Is this posting that I saw from Eden Prairie, is this from your company? Are you guys looking for a new MuleSoft developer? And I could say like, if so, here's my resume. Can you send it to your HR person? And Rakesh, if he's a good guy, and he's got a nice smile, seems like a good guy, he could possibly forward it directly to the HR manager. Or also an incentive for him to do it is a lot of these large companies have referral bonuses. So if you send in a resume and the person ends up getting hired, you can get a cash bonus. So don't be afraid to message these people, even though if you don't know directly, if you've never met them before. So that's kind of how I would say is the first way of if we can start with a job posting to try to avoid the recruiters. So a second way is kind of, because we're in Canada, we're kind of in a unique position where it's such a small MuleSoft community that we kind of know just by networking and talking to each other what are the MuleSoft, who has MuleSoft, what organizations in Canada. So you can kind of try to build up your own list of companies, and then you can monitor them like through their websites, check them every once in a while to see if they have jobs. Or if you see a Canadian job site, well, now you have a list. You have a list of Canadian companies that have it, so you can easily match up. Because LinkedIn might be a little tough sometimes. Like say there's a job posting for Brampton, and LinkedIn doesn't have a region for Brampton. They only have one for Toronto area. So it's good to kind of know, to build up the organization list in Canada. And you can do this multiple ways. So in meetups, like we're doing right now, if the speaker or organizer like introduces themselves and they say, oh, I'm a MuleSoft developer at a certain company, you just can jot it down. Or in conferences is a really neat trick I like to do. So in conferences, if you go to a MuleSoft conference, they'll give you an attendee list. So what I've done in the past is I just screenshotted the attendee list. So this was from the MuleSoft Summit in Toronto this year. So I can't remember. It might have been 2019 or 2020. So if I zoom in, this is everybody who attended the MuleSoft Summit. So again, they have their company listed as well. So these, of course, aren't necessarily have MuleSoft. They could just be sending there to find out more about the information. But a lot of them, if not most of them, of MuleSoft customers will come. And because there's only one summit in Canada, you'll get a lot of the companies from out west in BC and even out east come to the MuleSoft Meetup. So here you can say CCA. I know for a fact that CCA has MuleSoft. What else? So Deloitte does a lot of implementation. CSA Group, I think their office is right by the airport. They have MuleSoft, and you can go on and on. So now you're kind of building up a client list of people you want to network with directly. And of course, you can start adding these people on LinkedIn too, so that if you ever need to submit a resume, you can actually hand it to one of these people. So I understand like that these processes take time. Like you're not, and it's not going to work in all situations. Like it's kind of you got to try to figure out recruiters, and a lot of times job postings I don't even think that they're real, but that's a whole nother story. A lot of them are. But and I'm not saying that you should be either unemployed rather than work with a recruiter. But just as I recommending switching jobs for a better job title, you need to make strategic decisions that'll help you in the long term. And that is what I kind of want to convey in this presentation. So none of this is going to be quick. The current virus wasn't something we could have predicted, and maybe we were just unlucky that it affected our industry in a way that we couldn't avoid it. But as you get older, you'll start to realize that these unexpected events tend to happen over and over again. So this will not be the last one. And I just want everyone to take a step back and analyze where they are on both of these ladders, the job level and the closest to the money, and realizes that there are choices you can make now to try and protect yourself, your family, and your livelihood for the next time an unexpected event happens again. And if this is just a couple links, of course I'm not leaving right now, but this is my YouTube channel if you want to see more MuleSoft tutorials. And if you have any questions outside of the meetup that you want to, or if you want to just connect, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there, and you can just search my name, but here's the link. And that's the end of presentation 1. Back to you, Alexandra.
All right, thank you. So we're gonna do the first part of the quiz, and then we can have a small break. All right, I hope everyone's ready. Can everyone find their chat window? All right, I'm gonna assume that's happening. So question 1, what are the 2 ladders that Jason recommends climbing?
Ooh, that's quick.
All right.
That's
So
quick.
yeah, the answer is skills and customer. Yeah. Question 2. What was the recommended way to get more MuleSoft related connections on LinkedIn? Lots of answers. So the answer is sign up for the free month of premium service. Cool. Question 3. If you are working at a large organization, what was the recommended way to get a higher job title? Oh, my chat keeps moving every time someone writes. Okay, the answer is switch jobs to a smaller organization to get the title, then switch back to a larger company with the higher title. Okay, let's give it to ISAS with smaller company then. Question 4. What is the current version of Anypoint Studio? Oh, we already have the answer. That was quick. So yeah, the answer is 7.5, and there is a link if you don't believe me.
It's 751.
Well, it says 7.5. Did someone say? Okay, Nagesh said 751, and then yeah, we can give it to Nagesh
Yeah,
then.
Nagesh, yeah.
Then question 5. This is the final question for the first quiz. What is the name of the process or feature in Studio that uses Mule event metadata to help you visualize the structure of inputs and outputs in a transform message connector? Oh my God, yeah. You guys are quick.
It's
Data sense.